Hey everyone, how's it going? Forrest here, again with another installment of my complete analysis of all of J.S. Bach's chorale harmonizations. Today we're looking at Wo Gott der Herr nicht bei uns halt, which translates to if the Lord does not stay with us. This chorale is very similar to the chorale we looked at yesterday. It's not identical by any means, but there are a lot of similar patterns in chord progressions that if you watched yesterday's episode, you will see in today's chorale as well. So let's just hop right into the analysis. So we have two sharps in the key signature. We start on B minor, we end on B minor, which is pretty interesting, but I think in a similar fashion, we're going to start off in the key of D major, even though the overall tonality of this chorale I would say is B minor. There's some oscillation between the relative major and minor in this chorale, but this phrase starts off with a 6th chord of B, D, F sharp, and D with a passing tone in the alto. We then have F sharp, D, A, and D. It's D major over F sharp, which is 1/6, and then we get G, D, G, and B. It's a 4-chord G major with a passing tone in the melody. We then have F sharp, D, A, and D. It's another D major chord in first inversion, this time with passing tones in the outer voices, and then we get D, D, A, and F sharp, D major, root position. We'll just change the figured bass. We then have G sharp, D, B, and E, some secondary dominance here. This is E7 over G sharp, which is 5/6/5 of 5, because E is the dominant of A, and A is our 5 chord, and that takes us to A, C sharp, A, and E, which is our dominant, like I said, passing 7th in the alto, and then our perfect authentic cadence concludes with 1, D, A, F sharp, and D, D major. Looking ahead, we have a perfect authentic cadence in the key of B minor, already a similar form. And we start off the phrase in a similar way to yesterday's chorale as well. We have B, D, G sharp, and D. This is 7/6 of 5, because G sharp is the leading tone to A, and just like we learned earlier, A is our 5 chord, and that's exactly what we have, A, E, A, and C sharp. So interesting that the chorales have this similar structure. We then go to E minor, E, E, G, and B, so we have some semblance of like a E7 chord here with the G sharp versus the G natural here, which is E minor-esque. So this is a 2 chord, some transitive harmony. 2 typically wants to go to 5, but if one can go to the other, surely the other can also go to 1. So in this case, however, with this passing tone in the melody here, I think this is where we move to the key of B minor. This is also our 4 chord. E minor is the subdominant in the key of B. We then have B, D, F sharp, and B. That is our tonic triad in the key of B minor. This is kind of a modulation zone here. You can really say that we've modulated to B minor in any of these points because the pitch collections that belong to D major and B minor are so similar to one another. That just naturally happens a lot of the time. Passing 7th in the bass, passing tone in the tenor. Then we have G, B, E, and E. It's E minor over G, it's 4/6. And then we have passing tones in 3 of the voices, the upper voices and the bass, leaving us with F sharp, B, F sharp, and D. It's B minor in second inversion. It's in passing context. 3 voices are moving. I feel like most of the signs are telling me that there is a subdivision of the harmonic rhythm going on here, so I will analyze the chord. We then have E, B, G, and C sharp. That's C sharp minor 7 flat 5. You might remember 4/6 going to 2/6/5 yesterday, so this chord progression is very similar, except this one has more of a deliberate passing chord in between. We then have F sharp, A sharp, F sharp, and C sharp. That's F sharp major, which is our 5 chord. This E is our 7th, but not a chord tone in this context. And then we cadence on B minor, B, D, F sharp, and B, tonic triad. Looking ahead, we have a half cadence in the key of B minor, but I'm pretty convinced that we moved to the key of D major at the start of this phrase. It just sounds like that to me. So I'm going to say this B minor chord is actually our gateway into the key of D major as well. It sort of fulfills the repeat because we start on 6 as well, but it also is going to be 6 moving forward. So we have A, and wait, goodness, sorry, C sharp, A, and E. If you've watched my videos for any length of time, you probably know that I am largely dyslexic when it comes to reading music. That's not a joke. That's actually something that I've struggled with ever since I was little. I really put off learning how to read for a very long time. It was never enforced in my musical curriculum when I was younger. And sorry for the side note here, but I find myself confusing clefs and positions on the staff routinely, and it takes me a second to clarify, and I've been doing that for a number, basically since the beginning of the channel, and I think that I'm pretty good at correcting myself, but some of them do slip through the cracks and do know that I am error prone in that way, but the vast majority of the chords are correct. That is for certain because of the fact that I proofread and have gotten quite good at being able to analyze twice and cross-examine my work with my previous draft. So if I do make a mistake like that, the spelling, do know that it's a lot worse in the first analyzing process. It gets a lot better when I analyze on camera. But yes, I do have some type of like symbol-related dyslexia when it comes to reading. It's been a part of my musical life since I was itty bitty. I was like, I don't know, learning how to read when I was like 6 or 7, and it was very challenging, but it was never enforced. So when learning how to read really became necessary, like in and around exams in high school, and just wanting to learn more about theory as like a preteen and as a teenager, I had to kick it into gear, but it's always been a challenge for me to read. So never been the strongest reader, but every chorale I analyze, I get that much better. So yes, C sharp, A, and E, which is a 5-6 chord in the key of D major. And then we go to D major, D, A, and F sharp tonic triad. Passing 7th in the bass, F sharp, A, and F sharp. Here's a very similar thing to what happened in yesterday's chorale. This, I guess, technically is a 3 chord, but under usual circumstances, usually we would expect a 1-6 chord here, and he would just invert the chord over 2 beats. I mean, we have the ingredients for a 1-6 chord here, but we lack the root, so I guess technically it's a 3 chord. And to add to the similarity between the two chorales, we go to a 5 chord, A, C sharp, E, and C sharp, which is our 1-3-5 third space progression that was kind of unusual. But I don't think we modulate in the same way. It's I'm drawing a blank, trying to remember exactly how we modulated. It would have been a good idea for me to have the chorale next to me, but I do not. But I don't think we modulated this way. We have A sharp, C sharp, G, and E, which is A sharp fully diminished 7th. That is 7/7 of 6. Of course, you could call this A7 in the key of B minor and then say we have modulated over the course of a zone, but to me it sounds more like this B minor still is being contextualized in the key of D major. That's just how it sounds to me. Again, with modulations and relatively similar keys, modulation zones naturally occur, and it can be difficult to pinpoint the exact location if there is one. So in this case, this just happens to be one of the cases where we have the modulation, in my opinion, that happens after the secondary dominant. So this A sharp fully diminished 7th takes us to 6, B minor, which also happens to be our tonic in the key of B minor. That's just how I hear it. Passing tone in the tenor as well before we get E sharp, B, G sharp, and D. Another diminished 7th chord. This is E sharp diminished 7th, and it's a secondary dominant. It would be 7/7 of 5 because E sharp's the leading tone to F sharp, and we would expect to go to F sharp afterwards, which is exactly where we go. F sharp, A sharp, and C sharp. That's our 5 chord, F sharp major. And we're looking for a point where we are going to modulate in the next phrase to the key of A major. It's actually pretty cool. We cadence on F sharp major, and F sharp is the relative minor to A major. But the keys are not, F sharp major and A major are not adjacent to one another on the circle of fifths, but F sharp and A are kindred spirits. So we're looking for a point in which we modulate between the two keys, and I think this resolution to B minor after the dominant here is going to be our gateway. We have B, F sharp, B, and D, which is our tonic triad in the key of B minor, and no hesitation, we're going right into the key of A major. B also happens to be our supertonic. Passing 7th in the bass, G sharp, B, B, and E. That is E major over G sharp. That's a 5-6 chord. F sharp passing in the bass, A passing in the alto, and then we get E, E, G sharp, and B. That's just root position, same chord. We'll only change the figured bass there. Passing tone in the melody as well. F sharp, A, F sharp, and D. Bit of deceptive progression here. That's D major over F sharp, which is 4-6. We have some passing tones in the lower voices too. Again, one of these 4-6 going to 1 progressions, ascending, always using the leading tone to connect the 2 voices. G sharp, B, F sharp, and D does happen to be G sharp minor 7 flat 5, which 4 going to 7, probably the most common subdivided chord progression in all of the chorales, so seeing it here really makes sense. Typically, bare minimum, we get the leading tone, and sometimes we get another voice moved that coincidentally spells a 7 chord, so happens to be a very common progression. We then have A, C sharp, E, and C sharp. That's our tonic triad, A major. And more secondary dominants, D sharp, F sharp, A, and B. That's B7 over D sharp, which is 5-6-5 of 5. Because B is the leading, or sorry, not the leading tone, D sharp is the leading tone to E, but B is the dominant of E, so 5 of 5. And then we get E major, E, E, G sharp, and B. That's our 5 chord, where we would expect it to go. Passing 7th in the tenor, and then we cadence on A major, A, E, and, A, C sharp, E, and A. Tonic triad, root position. Alright, so we're looking for a point in which we modulate to the key of B minor to take us out. But I think we stay in A at least for a little bit. We have B, D, G sharp carried over from the previous phrase, and D. This is a G sharp diminished over B, which is 7-6. And if you see 1 going to 7-6 and you've watched my videos in the past, you probably know what chord's going to be on the other side of this. It's going to be a tonic triad in first inversion, C sharp, E, A, and C sharp. That's pretty conventional progression in Bach. Passing tone in the bass as well before we get E major, E, E, G sharp, and B. And Bach pulls a sneaky on us where 5 turns into a harmonization of the B melodic minor scale. G sharp, A sharp, B. We can see that in the alto here. So we know that most likely this 5 chord is going to be recontextualized as 4 in the key of B minor. And we have some passing tones in the upper voices as well, which spell C sharp, E, A sharp, and, E, E, A sharp, and C sharp. That's A sharp diminished over E, which is a 7-6-4 chord. The inversion doesn't matter too much. 4 going to 7, again, another subdivided chord progression of 4 going to 7, very common. And then we're going to go to B minor, B, F sharp, B, and D. Tonic triad, root position, passing 7th in the bass. We then get E, B, B, and I did it again, G, B, B, and E. That is 4-6, E minor in first inversion, and similarly to the way that the B section, the second phrase of the A section ends, just like yesterday's chorale, we're going to see a similar cadential configuration here. We have passing tones in the outer voices, and this F sharp is a non-chord tone as well, leaving us with F sharp, B, F sharp, and D. It's like another 1-6-4 chord in passing here. And then we get 2-6-5, E, B, G, and C sharp. C sharp minor 7 flat 5 over E. We know that Bach loves 2-6-5 chords, especially in cadential situations. And then we have F sharp major, F sharp, A sharp, F sharp, and C sharp. That's our 5 chord. That's what we would expect after a 2-6-5 chord. Passing 7th in the alto, and then B minor, B, F sharp, D, and B. And typically speaking, we would expect a B major chord, but here we have B minor. Which is pretty interesting because most minor chorales end with the Picardy third, so a little bit of interesting trivia for the end of this particular chorale, but very structurally similar to yesterday's chorale, but harmonically speaking, much more tame. It's interesting how similar it can be while also being much more harmonically conventional. But that's going to be today's analysis. If you're interested in following me along on the journey to analyze all of Bach's chorale harmonizations, feel free to subscribe to the channel, feel free to hit the notification icon so you can be notified of my daily upload, and feel free to like the video if you enjoyed the content. means my videos are going to be seen by more people. That means more community, more analysis, more discussion. That's what we like in these parts. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching the video and supporting the channel by doing so. I look forward to tomorrow's analysis, and I hope you take care.